Well, I've been wrestling with myself all day to decide whether I should really want to come up here or not. And I feel like my questions have been answered most of the day several times because I have so many questions, but can you achieve anything with just soothing yourself about how you feel? In other words, I have always felt that I was going to have a connection with non-physical before I even knew the term non-physical. I felt that my whole life.
Well, you were born knowing that, and you were born connected to that. You were born remembering it. You were
That's
born
right,
knowing
I remember it, but
yes.
I don't manifest it now.
Well, not all day, every day. But now this is a very good example of what. So that statement, I remember it sort of, and I want it intensely, but I don't know how to get there. That sort of makes you feel gripped, doesn't it?
Yes.
In other words, I remember this thing that I really, really want, and I don't know how to get to it. So feel the tension in that statement. And now soften it by saying, well,
I do remember it.
I do remember it, and sometimes I do feel that connection.
Yes.
And I think that we all have it, and I know it's there for me. And as I just relax a little bit and let it in, I'll have it more. And that might be enough for that setting, for that moment. And then at some time when you see something and you feel thrill bumps move through you, and you stop and you smile and you say, that was it. That was an example of that. And then next time you're back in that same place, having that same conversation, then you remember that time you felt those goosebumps, and just little by little you build your own case for believing in this thing that is so natural.
But it's through feeling, through positive emotion versus sitting down and meditating and quieting your mind. The feeling is part of it, is what I'm asking.
Here's the thing. The feeling is the response or the indicator to the thought. And the reason that meditating works well is because you quiet your mind, and when you quiet your mind, you stop resistant thought. But we got to tell you, we would much rather see you consciously choose thoughts that feel better than quiet your mind to no thought. The reason we teach meditation, frankly, is because it's easier to teach you to have no thought than to have pure positive thought. But now, we're not teaching you so much about meditation or medication as we are about deliberately choosing a thought that just feels better. For what reason? Because it feels better. No, really, Abraham, for what reason? Because it feels better. No, really, Abraham, what's the real reason that you want me to choose this better feeling thought? Because it feels better. Yeah, but really, what's it for? In other words, where will that take me? Well, it will make you feel better. And you say, yeah, but for what? Because feeling better is what you remember.
Yeah.
Feeling good is that connection that you remember. Do you know what that connection to source energy feels like? It feels like glad to be alive. It feels like happy. It feels like proud. It feels like love. It feels like in love with life. That's what you remember, you see. That's that strong, strong memory that you remember. And you just got to coax yourself back there over and over on lots of different topics a little bit at a time. Connection is not some big, wonderful thing where source energy then tells you important things. Connection is feeling good, you see. And feeling good, all kinds of other wonderful things happen too. But connection is about the way you feel.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Like almost everyone here, I've gone back and forth over what would be the most meaningful question to ask in this awesome opportunity with you.
The one you're feeling the most emotion around.
The one that comes to me is the awareness that in our journey as human beings, we're multifaceted into our thoughts, which we create from, our feelings, which our desires drive us towards our goals or our outcomes as we want them. But I feel that for myself anyway, where I become most clipped at the knees or eclipsed are in the emotional patterns, and they do seem to be patterns of many years. In other words, they started somewhere, and my thought about it as a soul searcher and a student of this work is that maybe even they began before we began this journey, and we came here to figure this out.
Well, remember, your emotions are your response to your thoughts. And your emotions are coming in your now in response to your thoughts. So, yes, you had emotions before you came forth into this physical experience, but the emotions that you have now are in response to the thoughts you're having now. Mm-hmm. Your emotions are telling you about your vibrational countenance, about your point of attraction. That's the whole point of emotion. Your emotions are letting you know your vibrational offering so that you'll understand what's going to come back in response to your vibrational offering. So, it is true that you were a being who thought thoughts that filled you with love before you got here. That's true. But the emotions that you have now are about what you are thinking now. If your emotions now were all about what you were before you got here, you would only be an offerer of love and appreciation and joy. But your emotions are in response to everything that you're thinking about. And that's why it's a bit of a roller coaster for most of you.
Mm-hmm. Especially in relationships, whether it's family mostly, I would say, for the people that I talk to and myself included, because each entity or individual has their own free will, their own emotions, their own...
But when you think about what we've been talking about all day here today, you have a newfound freedom, and that is, so here you're watching some member of your family, and you can't control their behavior. And so that's the action journey over which you have little or no control. But you've got this other emotional journey going on where you can bring yourself into alignment if you want to enough. And when you do, you'll be free. In other words, that's the only place where freedom resides, is in your understanding that you can feel the way you choose to feel because you can think the thoughts you choose to think about everything. And until you get that, then everybody's going to have you upset over something, because nobody's going to be able to stand on their head in enough different ways to make you have an even, steady experience, you see. Oh, there's such freedom when you discover that you can feel the way you choose to feel. Regardless, it's nice to recognize that you are the creator of your own experience. But we have to say to you, yes, you are the creator of your own experience, but you are here surrounded by others, and there is not one of you who can cease being ever a co-creator. And you say, well, that's when I always get into trouble, because I think I can line myself up, but I can't line everybody else up, or I can't line me up with them. And we say, co-creating doesn't mean getting them to agree with you or getting you to agree with them. Co-creating means taking care of the first order of business, which is your alignment with who you are, and then dealing with whatever it is that you're dealing with. And so if you take care to make sure that you have trained yourself into feeling good about those with whom you're interacting, then the co-creation is a breeze. Mm-hmm. But if you don't tend to your own resources, if you don't make sure that you're connected to who you really are, then co-creating can be a sort of rocky ride. Mm-hmm. Because they can jerk you all around.
Well, we've certainly seen our roles change as women in the world since I'm embodied as a woman. I've had huge shifts from the time I began as a young girl to where I am now in my 50s.
Explain that to us.
Well, the original identity of myself in the world as a young girl was limited opportunities and possibilities.
But you see, that was an action journey that was conjured by somebody else for some other reason that had nothing to do with you.
Right.
And what we're saying today is you can buy into that. In other words, you say, well, that was then. Then it evolved. Then it evolved to what? In other words, you said there's been many.
Well, through my own experience of life, marriage and divorce, having children, being self-sufficient, being career-oriented, positive in business, overcoming a lot of obstacles to find that I am a greater creator than I thought I ever could be when I go back to that level of childhood and what I was taught.
But here's the thing that we want you to hear, because while certainly you have evolved in your species, and certainly women and a lot of others have come to see themselves in a wholer, healthier light than at former times. We are not disagreeing with any of that. But one thing that we powerfully want you to hear in the context of what you're talking about here is that it is possible for a person to be as disconnected from their source under these liberated times than under much less liberated times. You just keep finding less important things to upset you.
Grant you that.
In other words, there were those in those times that came into their own power. There were those in those times that were sort of running the show, and some of them were black women. Some of them were women who were not allowed to vote because of their gender, because of their color, who innately knew their power and didn't let anyone take it away from them. In other words, it doesn't matter what time you're born in or what the circumstances are that surround you. You have within you knowledge of who you really are and emotions that will always guide you back to it. And so forgive us if we are not too willing to encourage you based upon the evolution of your species in your action society. In other words, there are those who would say, oh, these are far better times than before because we are more liberated in all of these ways. And then on the other side of the same coin, they will say, oh, these are far worse times because now there is the threat of terrorism, or because now we have all of these other things that we need to worry about. You can feel as good or as bad as you choose to feel under all times and all conditions, you see.
One of the things that I've noticed in the last 20 years are the number of spiritual teachers like yourself that bring this information that you're presenting to us that allows that awareness to persist. And
well, that is the natural byproduct of being on the leading edge. In other words, every leading edge time has that. And every time is leading edge time.
Wow. Would you comment on the eclipse we had last night and the effect it may have had, if any, on the energy of today?
It was beautiful and means nothing beyond that.
It was beautiful. Well, thank you.
Yes, indeed. We have enjoyed this interaction immensely. It is delicious to come together with those like you who are coming more and more in every moment to understand who you are. It is exhilarating to contemplate that which is before you based upon the information that we hold about what is in your vibrational escrow. You've come a long way, even in this short time that we've been together today, at coming into vibrational alignment with who you really are. Keep your eyes open. There will be tremendous evidence of things that you have been asking for showing up in your experience in your immediate future, because you soothed yourself into a place of alignment and allowing that is more than most do in a lifetime. There is great love here for you. We are complete.